Let's explore what Mahamudra meditation really is. This morning's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found online. Or I should say received online. Simply pertaining to questions about Mahamudra. A good-hearted person wrote, I have a question I hope I could ask you. If I taken this Mahamudra short talk, am I ready for deeper Mahamudra? So for this person, English is at least a second, maybe a third language. And I really respect someone who has the courage and enthusiasm to reach out to someone who speaks a different language. Bravo. So the answer to your question is it depends who you ask. If you ask someone who is mired in if you ask someone who thinks it's a wonderful thing to be rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel, then they will say, no, you must jump through these hoops like a tiger in the circus. However, if you ask a teacher who thinks it's a really good idea to be flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind, then they'll say you are ready for the complete path. There is no mystery. And in the next hour, you could learn everything you need to know to become a Buddha in the next 4 months. The individual continues, but don't know what could be deeper, but I do not know what could be deeper. I also think Mahamudra is not so deep, but just freeing the mind from ideas, concepts, and emotions. So we are not freeing the mind from the presence of ideas, concepts, and emotions, for that would be antithetical to mindfulness. And instead, what we're freeing the mind from is the tyranny of ideas, concepts, and emotions. They are still there, and we still notice them. But through the power of Sutra Mahamudra, we're able to let go of them. We still perceive them, but we are less and less and less controlled by them. Kind of like the Disney movie Pinocchio. I have no strings to hold me down, to make me fret or make me frown. I once had strings, but now you see there are no strings on me. So that is the path the Buddha offers us. Here in Mexico City, there are a few Mahamudra teachers around, but it's kind of funny when reciting the Guru Rinpoche mantra, a strong force emerges inside me, and also doing some kind of meditation. So here's the thing. There are a bunch of people prancing about the countryside lying. Some are malicious, some are superstitious, some are weak-minded. But they tell you that this is only for special people. So it can be tempting to say, but I am special, and let me prove to you why I am special. That is like running full speed headfirst into a brick wall. Let's not do that. I assure you, in the next hour, I intend to share with you every technique you need to master the path of Mahamudra over the next 4 months. Now, what I mean by 4 months is if you play with these exercises every morning and every evening, then by the end of the 4 months, you could have mastered it, both mentally and physically. And you're welcome to keep coming back, and I will keep teaching you. I'll be delighted to work with you. Let's continue. But I think it's Lung Chi Prana, also known as Ruha, moving, but it's unutterable, goes beyond any word, that energy. So once again, sadly, the most popular Mahamudra teachers tend to be the biggest hacks, and tend to be those who are slaves themselves to rigidity, fear, superstition, and elitism, and controlling tendencies. So when the teacher says, oh, it's unutterable, what they're really saying is, I'm too incompetent to explain this to you. And if you ask questions, you're unworthy of being my student. Listen, if you don't have a teacher who is willing to say, I don't know, then find one who is. If you have a teacher who is intimidated by your questions, then find one who isn't. Don't know is this right or wrong, but sometimes it feels like taking a drug without doing it. It's just your basic samadhi. In Hinduism, there is a lot of mysticism around samadhi. Samadhi, whether you're practicing Hinduism or Buddhism, is not supposed to be this weird thing. Samadhi is not the suspension of thoughts, and nor is it perfect concentration. Samadhi is simply mindfulness and meditation, and we'll go through that through the lens of neuroscience in just a few minutes, so do bear with me. Like sometimes I can move that energy that moves around or appears when reciting the mantra of Padmasambhava. So Paul the Apostle, I'm going to paraphrase Paul. I'm going to paraphrase everybody, but we're going to paraphrase Paul the Apostle right now. Not everything that is permissible is profitable. Just because we can do something doesn't mean it's going to benefit us to do that. So you seem very intelligent and very enthusiastic, and if you say you can move energy, I have no problem with it. You probably can. But doing so can probably just feed our controlling tendencies. I'm telling you this because I'm trying to help you to sidestep the mistakes that I made in the past. I've made virtually every conceivable mistake, and I would like to save you the needless heartache I endured, so your journey can be swifter and more pleasant than mine was. As I told you before, it is unutterable, goes beyond any words of depiction, but don't know, is this lung chi prana moving around? It don't matter. And it is, it doesn't matter. These sensations are neither good nor bad. They are neither your indictment nor your acquittal. They just are, and I will help you through them in just a few moments. But kind of made me more secure of myself. So, good. I remember when I was dealing with people, teachers, who would kind of dangle empowerments and teachings ahead of me as if to control and manipulate me, that when I was reading of the benefits of reciting the 21 praises to Tara, that those who recite it only twice daily would receive all the empowerments they desire. When I had the very good fortune to be gifted a copy of Tulku Thondup's Masters of Meditation and Miracles, I learned that the idea of a kirtan, that when people are earnest and there are no teachers present, that they can receive the teachings supernaturally. I wanted to receive so I received teachings from men and women of flesh, blood, and bone. I received teachings from their books. I received teachings from non-corporeal entities. And as exciting as it was, I want to make it just as easy for you. The Buddha taught that there is a mental and a physical aspect to enlightenment, and the mental aspect can be mastered in as little as 7 days. But for those of us in the West who were not raised sitting cross-legged on the floor or practicing Bengali crease counting with our hands, it can take several months just to physically get up to speed. So it's my desire to make this just as easy for you without you having to leave home or work or partner or pets or children. So with you just practicing once every 12 hours, if you apply these instructions, you can get fabulous results. And like everything I do is free. There are no hidden websites. There are no hidden fees. Everything is free here on YouTube. And my downloads are available on a free website. When you want them, you can have them. My only problem is that sometimes my teachings get ahead of my uploads, and I need sometimes people to nag me to post them because I got so much stuff to do. But anyway, so the broad brushstrokes are as follows. There are 3 Mahamudras: Sutra Mahamudra, Bindu Mahamudra, and Tantra Mahamudra, which is just a fancy way of saying mental yogas of awareness, mental yogas of bliss, and mental yogas of letting go. We're going to play with all 3 this morning. So let us sidestep elitism and superstition. I know that's tempting, but some people really get off on that. So 100 years before the advent of Buddha, in China, Lao Tzu either composed or collected the 81 poems of the Tao Te Ching. Read it frequently enough and you'll notice patterns. You'll notice yin and yang explained, so you can recognize them, and then you'll notice that we are told frequently to always choose yin. So in Buddhism, yin and yang was typified by the example of the Buddha and the Buddha's wicked cousin Devadatta. So these are the attributes we are to sidestep. We are to sidestep being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. And instead we are to embrace the attributes of Gautama, the Buddha, the attributes of being flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. So from this point of view, you don't need magic, you don't need ritual, you don't need empowerments. All you need is to understand these teachings and apply them enthusiastically and consistently. That's it. Empowerments are just a lie designed to control people and empty their pockets, and we don't need that. I look forward to sharing you the fine details in absolute minutia after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome. Oopsie, got ahead of myself. For more than 30 years, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Now listen, if you can't afford to help me out, no problems. Just come to the live streams and click like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. And if you can't support me financially, at least you can support me, through clicking, which is free. And and everything I do is free. So if you don't even want to click, that's okay. You're still welcome to come and hang out with me. So I'm going to tap button 9 and bring you over to this morning's practice text. Now, your enthusiasm for the Guru Rinpoche, for the Padmasambhava 12-syllable mantra, has inspired me to create an adaptation for this, but I can't do that this morning. I was running too short on time, and I've got medical appointments. But I would very much like to, in the next 72 hours, to create an adaptation of this, specifically for the 12-syllable mantra. So stay tuned. So we will practice the 6-syllable mantra this morning. So let's get right into it. Who is this kind gaze, described in Sanskrit as Avalokiteshvara and in Tibetan as Chenre Zig? Those who are fortunate to traverse the path of being laid back, loving, of being laid back and loving and flexible, simply view this as an archetype whose iconography reminds us that we can master, no less practice, awareness and letting go, love and letting go, as well as bliss and letting go. So let's begin by reminding ourselves of the meaning of the mantra. Please chant with me. Om, I invoke the wish-fulfilling Mani Jewel of love and the purifying Bami lotus of letting go, supplicating with whom may love and letting go be mastered by all. Please, together, please chant. Let us, and so by the way, this is known in Tibet as Lama Kyeno, or calling the teacher as from afar. It's one of several, technically it's considered a preliminary practice, but actually it's a practice of, that can be described as completion stage, or Anu Yoga, or bliss Mahamudra. Please chant with me. Let us invite the Beeler Imagine Lama Amitabha Yabhyam to the crown of all head. That in the union of bliss and letting go we may train. So, in this, let us explore the iconography. The brass figure represents us and our enlightened potential. This couple, comprised of red light, sporting a tantric union, literally reminds us of the sensations at our crown and figuratively reminds us of the teachings. Silently and mentally let us recite during the in-breath, Lama come, and during the out-breath let us silently and mentally recite to this crown. Crown refers to the top of the head, the noun refers to the top of the head, and the color white also refers to the top of the head. It is my super secret agenda to get you up to speed when it comes to Sutra Mahamudra over the span of just 4 silent exercises. Let's prepare for the first one. The late head of the Nyingma order insisted that that Tantra is based upon Sutra with which myths never contradict. I therefore teach Tantra from the context of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Einstein warned us that any educated idiot can make things more complicated, more difficult, and more violent, but that it takes a lot of courage and a little bit of genius to move in the opposite direction. So my goal is to make this just as easy as possible. Remember, in the second to final passage of the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha promised that full enlightenment could be mastered in as little as 7 days. So let us begin with mindfulness, the 7th fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Every time we breathe in, we access the sympathetic nervous system, ensconced within the thoracic or rib cage portion of our spinal cord. No, it has not evolved to support either extreme of mind blanking or active concentration. Instead, it has evolved to help us to perceive, and to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Vulnerability is the price we pay to practice mindfulness. Perhaps that is why artists have chosen to depict the 2 figures comprising this archetype of meditation as nude. But you might ask, if we're not supposed to practice active contemplation, then what do we do with our breathing? Simple. We treat our breath the way a piano student treats a metronome. And when we notice our body breathing in, we can silently and mentally recite perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. When we notice our body breathing out, we can silently and mentally recite relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. This is not an affirmation, for affirmations deal with wishful thinking. Instead, this is a way of describing what's going on right now, and as seen through the lens of neuroscience. So I would like to practice this with you, and I would like to do so for 16 rounds. Now, what is a round? In this context, a round is simply one inhalation followed by one exhalation. A more interesting question would be, how can one count 16 rounds on just the 4 fingers and 1 thumb of one's left hand? Every time I inhale, I can advance my left thumb and touch its tip to one of the 12 sets of creases on one of the 4 fingertips. You are welcome to follow along with me, but I must warn you that because I'm doing all this talking, I'm breathing quite rapidly. Therefore, in the time it takes me to perform 16 rounds, you might only perform 8 or 12 rounds. That is not an indictment. That's just that's just a peculiarity of the way we practice together. Let's dig in. Let's begin silently and mentally reciting these 12-syllable exercises. We shall now continue with the outer set of preliminary practices from a certain point of view. Let us courageously exercise a vulnerability to notice others' stress, that the seeds of empathy we may sow. Instead of torturing ourselves with the fear of karma, may we view interdependence as the opportunity for our love to lighten the loads of others. Rather than torment ourselves with the dread of death, may we view impermanence as that which makes of grasping an absurdity. Instead of straining to make the most of each precious meditation opportunity, we could simply flow from the scented spontaneity generated by mindfulness and meditation. This brings us to our second of 4 meditation techniques. So I guess so let's begin with a bit of review. Every time we inhale, we are wired to notice. We are wired to notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We're also wired to notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. We can notice the external, the internal, the physical, the mental, the pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. And what do we do with all those things that we notice? Well, we practice meditation, of course, which is the 8th fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. But how does that work? Every time we exhale, every time we breathe out, we are accessing our parasympathetic nervous system, which is ensconced within both the lower lumbar region of our spinal cord as well as the tippy top of our cervical center. It has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release, and that is the great secret of Sutra Mahamudra. By noticing vulnerably, and then by physically relaxing and mentally releasing, we can rapidly become a Buddha. During our next 12 exercises, during each inhalation, please silently and mentally recite sitting tall. Sitting is a verb, tall is an adjective. Doing so reminds the tissues of our bodies to generate a vertical traction between our tush and our head, our kulu and cabeza. During our exhalation, please silently and mentally recite the 3-syllable verb, relaxing. We now turn to the inner set of preliminary practices as seen through the lens of the final meditation manual, Our Treasure of the Enlightened Ones, composed by the great Tibetan saint Zalpo Trul Rinpoche, who was lauded by the 14th Dalai Lama of Tibet. Together. In our compassion may we long to free all beings from the toxic tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, metaphorically known as the three mental poisons. In our pragmatism, may our liberation of all others be fueled by your reliance on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students, described by the metaphor of the three wish-fulfilling jewels. Rather than squander our time and energy in defensiveness, how much wiser could it be to learn our mistakes and lessons that effortlessly flow from the centered spontaneity of mindfulness and jet meditation? A life squandered in competition and greed leads not to peace and fulfillment. Better to live in cooperation and generosity. Add lives and may this mind shoot. Add lives and may this mind shoot out crowns. Purifying, multiplying, and offering my stuff to the beings of nirvana and samsara. We come now to not only the third of 4 exercises to get us up to speed in terms of Sutra Mahamudra, but we now are going to explore the first of 3 sets of fringe benefits of practicing mindfulness and meditation. Loving kindness constitutes 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Let us explore it through the paradigm of bad news and good news. We shall also explore it through the lens of neuroscience. When we rely upon the medial prefrontal cortex to actively concentrate, when we rely upon the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex to actively contemplate, our blood collects at the amygdala, at the bottom of our limbic system, which functions as the seat of both anxiety and aggression, which kind of sucks. Now for some good news. When we replace our reliance on active concentration, instead with the reliance upon passive mindfulness, and when we replace our reliance upon active contemplation with reliance upon passive meditation, then our blood mass shifts to our anterior cingulate gyrus, which shows up better on this diagram. Shows up better here. Same tissue, better diagram. This anterior cingulate gyrus, this hunk of meat, located 2 or 3 centimeters behind our forehead, functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy and compassion and love. That is why Tibet's highest Dzogchen lamas have insisted that the greatest love flows from the spontaneous non-contrivance of mindfulness and meditation. Perhaps that is why these two figures are comprising the archetype of meditation are depicted as beautiful. During our next 12 inhalations or 16 inhalations, let us silently and mentally recite, notice this. And during our next set of exhalations, let us silently and continue to silently and mentally recite the 3-syllable verb relaxing. Let us return now to the Bindu Mahamudra of bliss and letting go. Let us invite real or imagined Lama Amitabha Yabim to our heart mind, that in the union of bliss and letting go we may train. We come now to the 4th exercise of Sutra Mahamudra, and also the 2nd set of fringe benefits of practicing mindfulness as well as meditation. Please consider the scowl, the color of a cumulus cloud, actively delighting in tantric union, reminding us that contrivance is always trumped by spontaneity. Please consider her partner, the color of the azure sky, who appears to be passively savoring the same tantric union. thus reminding us that there are many flavors of spontaneity, and that the scattered spontaneity we might experience after our third espresso will always be trumped by the centered spontaneity that is the fringe byproduct of mindfulness and meditation. And when our choices, utterances, and deeds flow from this effortless effort, that is the sixth fold of the Buddha's eightfold path, this effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity generated by mindfulness and meditation, then our lives could be as blissful as the real or imagined paradise, or Pure Land, or Vati, depicted in Buddhist art. During our inhalation, let us kick back and simply watch the antics of mind as it perceives, emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, and imagines, while silently and mentally reciting the demonstrative pronoun this during our exhalation. Let us relax into mind's non-graspable nature as silently and mentally we recite the one-syllable verb ease. Now that we have climbed to contemplative cruising altitude, together as a team, let us meditate as profoundly as the Sokotano on Lothal. Let us view letting go through a philosophical lens as we bring the illusion of the horizontal duality of us and them into the dance of impermanence and interdependence, known as Madhyamaka's yoga of inconceivability. All circumstances or loss could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into a rainbow light that could absorb into this body or form. All bodies or forms could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could absorb into this communication or speech. All interpersonal speech could be as impermanent and interdependent as if it could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could absorb into this mind. All minds could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could absorb into our vast empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although tantalizing to the eye could be not graspable to the hand. The third fringe benefit of training in mindfulness as well as meditation is that as we relax into our, let me try this again. As we inhale, we are wired to notice the right view of impermanence that is the first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. We're wired to notice change, whether that change be subtle and gentle or dramatic and jarring. We notice the change of that which we see and hear and feel and taste and smell and the like. We notice changes in what we emote, intend, reason, recall, and imagine. We notice changes of the external, the internal, the physical, the mental, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. And all this noticing takes place vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. All this noticing takes place effortlessly and automatically. Let us continue to practice Sutra Mahamudra. Let us bring the experience of the four bases of mindfulness into the conventional path of love and letting go, where it is love that is emphasized. Folks, this is Tantra Mahamudra, also known as the Mahamudra of love and letting go. rather than indulge or controlling tendencies with our bodies of visualization, emotion, magic, and belief. We could just recite these words of love in harmony with our breathing and allow our subconscious to do the heavy lifting. May all minds of all beings know be as peacefully wise as the mind of a real Lord. Imagine Buddha symbolized by a tea clay, one syllable seed or bija mantra. Let us wish that all leaders of all countries possess the wisdom to transition from competitiveness and cruelty to cooperation and kindness. May all relationships of all beings now be as joyfully loving as a real or imagined Buddhist communication symbolized by the six-syllable mantra. Oh, you know what? I done forgot. This is an excellent opportunity for mantra meditation. As we breathe in, let us silently and mentally recite this italicized bit. As we exhale, let us physically relax as best we can while striving to chant this mantra. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. May all bodies of all beings know and show the beautiful health seen in Buddha's statuary, depicting the blissful body of a real or imagined Devi or Yadam, an archetype of enlightenment such as Chenrezig. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. May all circumstances or lots of all beings now have the good fortune or boon as a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, pure land or Vanti. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. So I mentioned before a 4-month protocol, and this is how it works. It is super easy to master these teachings mentally. But since we were not raised in the Iron Age where sitting on the ground was commonplace, as members of this Silicon Age, let us train our bodies to sit. The first week we can sit for approximately 5 minutes every 12 hours. Instead of grotesquely twisting our legs into the full lotus position, we can simply stack one lower leg upon the other. Just as we can twist our forearms, we can twist our lower legs so that it is the top of our feet that rest against our folded yoga mat, our folded yoga blanket, and not the crowns of our ankles. Now, at first, it might feel like your legs aren't cooperating. Ask a girl taking ballet, and she will remind you that our knees are only hinge joints. It is our hips that are ball joints. Therefore, the relaxation that occurs enabling one leg to rest upon the other does not come from loosening the knees, but from letting gravity and relaxation work its magic on our hips. Sit for 5 minutes every 12 hours, and within 1 or 2 weeks, this will be possible. Persist. In the second week, increase it to 10 minutes every 12 hours. In the third week, increase it to 15 minutes every 12 hours. As you sit with me and live stream, whether live or recorded, you can set the timer on your smartphone and thus cultivate what I like to call divine impatience. The first week, only participating for 5 minutes, you might feel ripped off. By the end of that first week, you're going to be excited to participate for 10 minutes. By the end of that second week, you're going to be excited to participate for 15 minutes. Progressing incrementally, it's more sustainable for our body and for our jobs and for our partners, as well as our pets and our children. By the conclusion of the 15th week, sitting for a 15-minute lecture and a 60-minute meditation could feel like child's play. Do not be surprised by the conclusion of the 16th week if you have mastered the path. Karma Jigme taught that the essence of all the Praktimoksha vows was simply to practice nonviolence. What if wishing love, which is the second fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, was simply the essence of mental morality? Let us now view letting go through a physiological lens as we bring the experience of the four bases of mindfulness into the ultimate path of love and letting go, where it is letting go that is emphasized, and yes, we're still practicing Tantra Mahamudra. Let us sidestep the rigidity that confuses metaphors for literal statements, and relax into the flexibility that savors the chance explaining metaphors as similes. As we inhale, all circumstances or lots could appear quite vivid. Yet as we relax into our exhalation, they could feel as non-graspable or void as a real or imagined paradise or hati of light. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. As we inhale, our bodies, our fronts could feel quite sensual. Yet as we relax into our exhalation, they could feel as non-graspable or void as a real or imagined octuple yidam of light. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. As we inhale, the interpersonal experience of communication or speech could sound quite resounding. Yet as we relax into our exhalation, it could feel as non-graspable or void as a real or imagined mantra of light. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. As we inhale, we can notice all minds, perceptions, emotions, intentions, cognitions, recollections, and imaginings quite clearly. Yet as we relax into our exhalation, they could feel as non-graspable or void as a real or imagined bija seed syllable of light. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. Karma Jigme taught that the essence of the Bodhisattva vows are fulfilled simply by sharing our good karma with others by the practice of dedication. Kind communication, which is the third fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, could be thought of as interpersonal morality. Let us bring the 5 body regions into the path of Bindu Mahamudra's bliss and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever lower abdomen we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as real or imaginable amogasides, mustard seeds are suitable of green light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever navel we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as real or imagined ratnasambhavas, mustard seeds isolable drum of gold light. So I'm going to add a phrase aft of, which means behind the navel. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever just we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as real or imagined akshobyas, mustard seeds are suitable hunga blue light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever threat we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel does not graspable as real or imagined Amitabha's mustard seeds suitable here free of red light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever crown or scalp we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as not graspable as real or imagined Vairocana's mustard seed size a bloom of white light. Kind conduct is the fourth fold of the Buddha's eightfold path, and can be thought of as physical morality. From a certain point of view, Karma Jigme taught the essence of refuge vows are simply to rely upon the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. Let us bring the dualistic five perceptions into the path of non-duality's awareness and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience of beauty or ugliness we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to melt into the non-duality of simply seeing. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience of discord or harmony we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to melt into the non-duality of simply hearing. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience a foul or fragrant we might have. That's what we call an editing opportunity. A foul or fragrant we might have noticed during our inhalation. Could begin to melt into the non-duality of simply smiling. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience of disgusting or delicious we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to melt into the non-duality of simply tasting. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience of pain or pleasure we might have noticed during our inhalation could simply begin to melt into the non-duality of simply feeling. From a certain point of view, the essence of Tantric Samaya is simply relying upon teachers, example, instructions, and students. Kind commerce, the fifth fold of the Buddha's eightfold path, could be thought of as circumstantial morality. Instead of being the proverbial Karen trying to get folks fired or the proverbial Chan trying to drive others out of business, we can replace our competitiveness and cruelty with cooperation and kindness. Let us bring the 5 mental poisons into the path of awareness and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever hate we might have noticed during our inhalation Could begin to feel as non-graspable as mirror like a wisdom's clairvoyant. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever pride we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as the equalizing wisdom of primordial voidness. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever craving we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as descending wisdom's bliss void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever jealousy we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as all-accomplishing wisdom's void intellect. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever confusion we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as all-pervasive wisdom's awareness void. Let us bring the five aggregates into the path of awareness and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever body or form we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever sensation, such as pleasure, pain, or not, that we might have noticed during our inhalation, could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever appraisal of pleasure, pain's intensity or volume we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever impulse such as hating, craving, confusion, jealousy, and pride we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. One moment, if you please. Could begin to feel as non-graspable. Let's try this again. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever impulse such as fucking, feeding, fighting, fleeing, fainting, or fawning we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever awareness of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, or imagination we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Let us percussively seal this practice with a chant that wishes for universal enlightenment and well-being. May all speech of all beings resounding, yet void no be as loving as a Buddha speech symbolized by a multi-syllable mantra. May all forms of all beings sensual, yet void now be as healthy as a yidam depicted in Buddhist statuary. May all lots of all beings appearing, yet void no be as fortunate as a pure land of lore depicted in Buddhist paintings. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 and a third hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.